At some point, you stop pretending you don't notice it. I'll be watching a scene that's supposed to hit emotionally. Somebody's exhausted or nervous or not trying to fall apart. And then suddenly the camera lingers a little too long on the exact brand of coffee, the exact bottle, the exact lipstick, the exact chicken shop signage. And it's not even subtle. It's centered, it's clean, it's lit like it matters. That's the moment the spell cracks just enough for me to remember there's a whole machine behind what I'm feeling. And the thing is, I don't even hate product placement in K-dramas. I can't. Not honestly. It's not just greedy brands ruining art. It's money keeping the lights on. South Korea formally opened the door to product placement on broadcast content around 2010 through rules tied to the Broadcasting Act framework. Product placement became explicitly permitted under conditions rather than being a total no-go. Once that happened, it wasn't a weird exception anymore. It became a normal lever that productions could pull. So when I see it now, I'm seeing a financing structure in real time. But knowing that doesn't stop the emotional whiplash. Because the impact isn't just, I saw a logo. The impact is what it does to my attention. It teaches my eyes to scan the room even when I'm trying to relax. I'll catch myself clocking a label before I clock a facial expression. I'll notice how the characters hold things, how often they repeat a product name, how the blocking conveniently keeps the item facing the camera. It makes me feel like I'm part of the transaction, like my feelings are being guided into a funnel. The show wants my attachment, and the brand wants to borrow that attachment for a second. And sometimes that's fine. Sometimes it's even kind of impressive because it's integrated smoothly enough that it doesn't interrupt the scene. The character buys something they would actually buy. The moment still lands. I move on. There are scenes where the product just exists the way stuff exists in real life, and it adds texture instead of pulling focus. But when it's aggressive, it changes the vibe of the whole experience. It makes the world feel less like a place and more like a showroom. It can flatten a character into a consumer. Like, instead of learning who they are through their choices and behavior, I'm being shown who they are through what they purchase. Over a full season, it trains you to read identity through brands. This person's the neat one, so they use this skincare. This person is warm, so they buy this brand of coffee for people. This person is successful, so they drive this car. It's not that those signals are new, it's that they become unusually loud when the story is getting paid to shout them. K-dramas are good at emotional closeness. They make you sit with little rituals, bringing food, showing up when someone doesn't ask, taking care of someone quietly. So when a product is placed inside those rituals, it doesn't just feel like advertising. It feels like it's trying to attach itself to tenderness. It's not, this brand exists, it's, this brand belongs in the space where people take care of each other. Even when I'm not tempted to buy it, it still leaves a trace. It makes the care feel staged for a second, even if the actors are killing it. And at the same time, I can't ignore the practical side. K-dramas have gotten bigger, slicker, more cinematic, and global streaming has poured money into the space. The scale is different than it used to be. The expectations are higher. The risk is higher. So when a show stacks product placements, I read it as the production fighting for funding in a crowded market. I'm not saying every placement is noble, I'm saying it's not random. It's structural. And that structure affects me as a viewer in this weird double-edged kind of way. I'm grateful the show exists, and also annoyed at how often it reminds me why it exists. Then there's the international side, which makes the whole thing feel even more intense. K-dramas aren't just domestic entertainment anymore. The same placement that used to be aimed mostly at a Korean audience now ends up being global exposure by default because so many people are watching through Netflix and Viki and other platforms. Brands know that. You can feel it in the kinds of products that get pushed and how confidently they're pushed. And it works. Koka, the Korean creative content agency, has been reporting that viewers overseas often end up with higher recognition and a more positive image of Korean products after seeing them in dramas, based on survey research in multiple countries. So the impact isn't only on my personal viewing experience, it's also part of how Korean consumer culture travels. It's a real export channel that happens to be wrapped in romance, revenge, healing, and whatever the genre is. And that's where my feelings get a little complicated because I'm not immune to it. I've looked things up after seeing them on screen. Not always to buy, sometimes I'm just curious. Sometimes because it seemed like a small piece of the character's life and I wanted to understand it. Sometimes because the show framed it as comforting or clean or aspirational. That curiosity is the point. It's literally doing what it's designed to do. I don't like admitting that, but it's true. And then I think about what it does to my sense of real. I'm watching a fictional world, but the products are real. The companies are real. The marketing goals are real. It creates this blended space where the show is asking me to surrender emotionally while quietly staying in the marketplace. That blend can make it harder to fully let go. It's like my brain is toggling between feeling and evaluating. I'm in the story, then I'm outside the story, then I'm back in. When it happens once, it's nothing. But when it happens repeatedly, it changes the texture of the entire viewing experience. There's also something about how it affects trust. When a K-drama is trying to sell me something, even subtly, I start wondering what else is being optimized. Kind of like a background suspicion that choices might be influenced by sponsor needs. Why is this scene here? Why is this location here? Why is this character suddenly into this particular thing? Sometimes the answer is just because it's cute or because it sets the mood. Sometimes the answer is obviously because money. And once you notice that pattern, you can't unsee it. But I don't want to turn into the guy who can't enjoy anything because he's doing mental accounting. I don't want to sit there judging every cup and every bag like I'm some kind of purity referee. If anything, it's been a little more personal than that. It's made me think how easily emotion can be packaged, how easily a warm feeling can become a marketing asset. Not because I'm dumb, not because anyone is dumb, but because we attach meaning to things constantly. We already do it. Dramas just concentrate it and polish it and aim it. So when I look back at the few dramas where product placement felt especially loud, I don't just remember the product. I remember the moment I got pulled out of the experience. I remember the tiny irritation. I remember the little laugh when it was too blatant. I remember the slight disappointment when a scene that could have stayed raw got cleaned up for a sponsor shot. And then I remember that I still finished the episode, still queued the next one, and still cared about the characters. It doesn't ruin the experience, but it changes how I relate to it. It makes me more aware of the bargain I'm participating in. I get the story, they get the money, the brands get the association. And I'm sitting here trying to feel something honest inside something that's been carefully monetized. And weirdly, it also makes me respect the craft when a show pulls it off without breaking the mood. Because that takes control. It takes restraint. It takes an understanding that the audience can sense when they're being handled too roughly. So I end up in this place where I'm not mad at it, but I'm also not neutral. I'm just aware. I watch modern K-dramas with one more layer of attention than I used to have. Sometimes that layer annoys me. Sometimes it makes me appreciate the industry realities more. Sometimes it makes me roll my eyes and keep going anyway. And maybe that's what it's done most. It's made me realize I can love something and still see the gears. I can be moved and still notice the sponsorship. I can get pulled into a character's loneliness and still clock the perfectly framed product shot on the counter. And the more I watch, the more normal that split feeling becomes. Like, this is just part of the modern version of the genre, part of the deal, part of the environment. But I don't think that makes the emotions fake. I think it makes the viewing experience more layered, more commercial, more self-aware. And sometimes, if I'm being real, it makes me miss the rare scenes that feel like they belong to nobody but the characters.